Hello, welcome to Shelf Defiant. I am your disembodied narrator. And we are continuing with Jurgen chapter 12, just excursus of Yolande's undoing. It could be Yolande, but it's spelled with an E after the D, and I've heard that pronounced as Yolande, not Yolanda, because it's an E, not an A. So I'm going to pronounce it Yolande as I've heard it previously. And of course, thank you to Project Gutenberg for making public domains available for everyone to read. Last we left Jurgen staring at the mirror, realizing he's young and trying to get a new wife. All right, so on to Yolande. Now Jurgen, self-appointed Duke of Logris, abode at the court of King Gaireven. The month of May passed quickly and pleasantly, but the monstrous shadow which followed Jurgen did not pass. Still, no one noticed it. That was the main thing. For himself, he was not afraid of shadows, and the queerness of this one was not enough to distract his thoughts from Guinevere, nor from his lovemaking with Guinevere. Pretty sure that hasn't happened, so for these were quiet times in Glathian, now that the war with Rheims of North Gaulis was satisfactorily ended, and lovemaking was now everywhere in vogue. By way of diversion, gentlemen hunted and fished and rode a hawking and amicably slashed and battered one another in tournaments. As one does, pretty pretty common, right? But their really serious pursuit was lovemaking, after the manner of chivalrous persons who knew that the king's trumpets would presently be summoning them into less softly furnished fields of action, from one or another of which they would return feet foremost on a bier. I think it's beer. So Jurgen sighed and warbled and made eyes with many excellent fighting men, and the princess listened with many other ladies whose hearts were not of flint. And Gogriven meditated. I salute that. Meditation is wonderful. Now it was the kingly custom of Goyervin, when his dinner was spread at noontide, not to go to meat until all such as demanded justice from him had been furnished with a champion to redress the wrong. One day, as the gaunt old king sat thus in his main hall, upon a seat of green rushes covered with yellow satin, and with a cushion of yellow satin under his elbow, and with his barons ranged about him according to their degrees, a damsel came with a very heartrending tale of the oppression that was on her. Gogriven blinked at her and nodded. You are the handsomest woman I have seen in a long while, says he, irrelevantly. You are a woman I have waited for. Duke Jurgen of Logres will undertake this adventure. Hmm. There being no help for it, Jurgen rode off with this dame, Yolande, not very well pleased, but as they rode he jested with her. And so, with much laughter by the way, Yolande conducted him to the green castle of which she had been dispossessed by Gremagog, a most formidable giant. Now prepare to meet your death, Sir Knight, cried Gremagog, laughing laughing horribly and brandishing his club. For all knights who have come hither I have sworn to slay. Well, if truth-telling were a sin, you would be a very virtuous giant, says Jurgen, and he flourished Thragnar's sword, resistless Caliburn. Then they fought, and Jurgen killed Gremagog. Thus was the green castle restored to Dame Yolande, and the maidens who attended her aforetime were duly released from the cellarage. They were now maidens by courtesy only, but so tender is the heart of women that they all wept over Gremagog. Yolande was very grateful and proffered every manner of reward. But no, I will take none of these fine jewels, nor money, nor lands either, says Jurgen. For Logres, I must tell you, is a fairly well-to-do duchy, and the killing of giants is by way of being my favorite pastime. He is well paid, that is well satisfied. Yet if you must reward me for such a little service, do you swear to do what you can do to get me the love of my lady, and that will suffice? Yolande, without any particular enthusiasm, consented to attempt this. And indeed, Yolande, at Jurgen's request, made oath upon the four evangelists that she would do everything within her power to aid him. Very well, said Jurgen. You have sworn, and it is you whom I love. What? Surprise now made her lovely. Yolande was frankly delighted at the thought of marrying the young Duke of Logres and offered to send for a priest at once. My dear, says Jurgen, there is no need to bother a priest about our private affairs. She took his meaning and sighed. Now I regret, said she, that I made so solemn an oath. Your trick was unfair. Oh, not at all, said Jurgen, and presently you will not regret it, for indeed the game is well worth the candle. How is that shown, Messire de Logres? Why, by candlelight, says Jurgen, naturally. In that event, we will talk no further of it until this evening. Okay, hold on, just pause 1 second. How is it that he being Jurgen follows his wife into a cave and now he's just wherever he is and just is trying to marry anybody else? Like, I mean, I thought he went into the cave with his wife. Why isn't he looking for his wife? I thought he was looking for his wife. I thought that was the point of the story. I really don't get 19th century literature. Okay. So that evening, Yolande sent for him. She was, as Gargraven had said, a remarkably handsome woman, sleek and sumptuous, and crowned with a wealth of copper-colored hair. Tonight she was at her best in a tunic of shimmering blue with a surcoat of gold embroidery and with gold embroidered pendant sleeves that touched the floor. Thus she was when Jurgen came to her. Now, said Yolande, frowning, you may as well come out straightforwardly with what you were hinting at this morning. But first Jurgen looked about the apartment, and it was lit by a tall gilt stand whereupon burned candles. He counted these, and he whistled. 7 candles. Upon my word, sweetheart, you do me great honor, for this is a veritable illumination. To think of it now, that you should honor me as people do saints, with 7 candles. Well, I am only mortal, but nonetheless I am Jurgen, and I shall endeavor to repay this 7-fold courtesy without discount. Oh, Monsieur de Logres, cried Dame Yolande, but what incomprehensible nonsense you talk! You misinterpret matters, for I can assure you I had nothing of that sort in mind. Besides, I do not know what you are talking about. Indeed, I must warn you that my actions often speak more unmistakably than my words. It is what learned persons term an idiosyncrasy. And I certainly do not see how any of the saints can be concerned in this. If you had said the 4 evangelists now, for we were talking of the 4 evangelists, you remember, this morning. Oh, but how stupid it is of you, Monsieur de Logres, to stand there grinning and looking at me in a way that makes me blush. Well, that is easily remedied, said Jurgen as he blew out the candles, since women do not blush in the dark. What do you plan, Monsieur de Logres? Ah, do not be alarmed, said Jurgen. I shall deal fairly with you. I don't like the sound of that. And in fact, I'm sorry, let me back up. And in fact, Yolande confessed afterward that considering everything, Monsieur de Logres was very generous. Jurgen confessed nothing, and as the room was profoundly dark, nobody else can speak with authority as to what happened there. It suffices that the Duke of Logres and the Lady of the Green Castle parted later on the most friendly terms. You have undone me with your games and your candles and your scrupulous returning of courtesies, said Yolande, and yawned, for she was sleepy. But I fear that I do not hate you as much as I ought to. No woman ever does, says Jurgen, at this hour. He called for breakfast, then kissed Yolande, for this, as Jurgen had said, was their hour of parting, and he rode away from the Green Castle in high spirits. Why, what a thing it is again to be a fine young fellow, said Jurgen. Well, even though her big brown eyes protruded too much, sometime something like a lobster's, she is a splendid woman, that Dame Yolande, and it is a comfort to reflect I have seen justice was done her. Then he rode back to Camelard, singing with delight in the thought that he was riding toward the Princess Guinevere, whom he loved with his whole heart. Yeah, I don't think he knows what that means. He seems to be all over the place with that. All right, and that's the end of chapter 12. I am kind of nervous to see how this ends. We have a ways to go. There's 46 chapters total in Jurgen. So thank you for joining me. See you next time.